Welcome to the Dean Vaughn Music Podcast Show. Do you know what really happened on January 6, 2021? Do we truly know the full story behind what happened at the U.S. Capitol on January 6, 2021? Separated from his family, financially devastated, all for simply being present at the Capitol building that day. He's finally speaking out. Hear his firsthand account of what he witnessed, why he was there, and how that day changed his life forever. Welcome to the Dean Vaughn Music Podcast Show. And we're bringing in the guest this evening, and that would be Jeffery Scott Brown. Let's bring him in right now. Hey, Jeff, how's it going?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Good, man. Well, thank you for coming in tonight to the Dean Vaughn Music Podcast Show. This I don't normally do politics and things, but this is going to be very interesting. I think we're going to have an interesting conversation about your experience on January 6, 21 and what you went through on all that. And I'm so glad you could make it. And I'd like to, just thank you for showing up tonight.
Well, I really appreciate you having me on, and we're breaking the mold a little bit on what you typically do, but, you'd be amazed at how many people really want to know what happened that day. Because they, for the past, literally, it's been 4.5 years now. They've been fed absolute BS from the corporate media,
right.
And so having someone who's actually been there, and that I love the question and answer. So later on, however we want to do it, or even along the way, if you want to pepper in questions along the way, that's great. I welcome all questions.
Yeah, I want to let the audience know that please get on the chat, either Rumble, Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube. Join the conversation, and any questions you have, please put them in the chat and I'll relay them over to Jeff. And I know there's a lot of people that have a lot of questions. I have a lot of questions. That's why I wanted to do this interview, because I would love to, talk to anyone from J6 just to find out what the heck happened down there. And I know that there's a lot of injustice going on, especially during the Biden administration. And so many people were imprisoned for minor things that, election fraud. I was looking at the Tina Peterson case, and I was looking at the Ray Epps and I would like to, that's one of the questions I'll have tonight about Ray Epps. What was his involvement? And was he a Fed, or was he just one of the Oath Keepers? So there's a lot of things I'll ask you later on, but let's get into who you are real quick before we jump into J6.
Sure.
And we're with Jeffery Brown tonight. Jeffery Scott Brown, is that right?
Yeah.
And are you from Southern California originally?
Yeah. I was born originally here in Southern California and lived here till about, I want to say middle school. And then my parents decided that Southern California was not a place to raise children.
Right.
So we moved up to northern Idaho, and I lived up there. And the funny thing is it really is, or was, a small town, at least back then when I was up there. And believe it or not, I think I was more sheltered down here being in California, because when I went up there, and then the first weekend I'd heard about a kegger, and I never had heard the word kegger before.
Kegger, man, I've had many kegger parties.
Exactly. So I went up there with my family. And I stayed there through high school, and about a year or two after that, I don't like winter. So I moved myself back down here.
Right.
I lived back down here pretty much since. So
yeah, I'm more of a summer. I'm a summer guy myself. Winter. Yeah. I don't care much for the rain and cold.
Yeah. My mom does a little bit of snowbirding back and forth, and sometimes I'll go up there for a little bit in the summertime, but that's about to the extent of it.
I hear you're an Eagle Scout, and you were a Boy Scout when you were a young kid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You're just
it is interesting. I got involved in scouting kind of early, like I want to say like around 10 or 11, and then progressed really rapidly to the point of Life Scout, which is the step below Eagle Scout.
Right.
And then at that point, I was about 14 or 15 and got a little bit more interested in other things that were going on other than scouting, especially in a small town.
Right.
And so I kind of dropped scouting, and then about 6 months before because Boy Scouts is up to 18, so at least it was back then.
I was a Boy Scout.
It's not Boy Scouts anymore, by the way. It's scouting, and you know that.
Scouting,
right?
Okay, right.
It's crazy now. The boys can't have their own thing. The girls got to be there.
It's got to be politically correct, right?
Exactly right. So about 6 months before I was to turn 18, a family friend of ours who was also an Eagle Scout sat me down and said, "Hey Jeff, look, you're so close. You've come this far. If you're this close and you don't finish it up, you're going to kind of regret it." So for the last 6 months leading up to my 18th birthday, I just jammed through every single requirement that I needed to, and literally got it in 2 nights before my 18th birthday.
Oh my God. Well, you are also a pilot. You earned your bachelor's degree in business administration. You hold an FAA commercial pilot's license and held a certified flight instructor certificate. Do you teach flying as well?
Yeah, well, not currently. So basically, in about the mid '90s, I got my flight instructor, my commercial pilot's license. I have my commercial multi-engine pilot's license.
Oh, nice, nice.
And then I was also a flight instructor, and I did that out of an airport here in Orange County for many years. And then it got to the point when you're teaching stuff like that, you get to the point where you just can't really do it anymore. And when I got to that point, my time was built, because you do it to build time so you can move on into your career. And so by the time I was at the point where I had all the hours built that I needed, aviation was in a glut. You could not get a job in aviation. So basically at that point, right then the internet was coming out. Right. People were starting to talk about that. So I actually left aviation and jumped into tech. And then at that point, I moved for the next almost decade into tech.
Yeah, I see you were like an IT. I read a lot about your IT stuff. I kind of skipped over that because that gets pretty deep. I'm an IT manager myself, so
I've kind of done it all. Every about 5 to 7 years, I kind of change it up a bit, and that's just kind of how it's worked out over the years. So I've done a lot of this, a lot of that, and aviation, of course, is one of them.
And you also you volunteered your time in Orange County food banks and animal shelters. I have a lot of animal lovers that watch the show, as you know, and Holly is one of them. She's the person who introduced me to you. She's a big animal lover. So tell me a little bit about your volunteer work.
Yeah. So basically, I got into fostering kittens. So basically, as a kitten foster, you take them after they've been weaned, and you take care of them until they're able to be adopted out. Okay. So I was doing that for the Orange County shelter here. And I was a little bit of a softie because basically what happened is I would take these kittens and I would care for them for about, maybe 4 to 6 weeks or so, and then take them over to the shelter. But then at that point, rather than being in an open range house where they had to go into a kennel or a little cage.
Oh, I see.
And they stayed there until they were adopted. So what I ended up doing is I ended up fostering them, taking them there, and then paying the adoption fees so that they would be the first ones to leave when they were adopted out. And then that got to a point where I was like, I can't continue to do that anymore. So I got more involved with a shelter on the outside where, I would care for the kittens, and then I'd take them to like the Petco in the weekend and then bring them back home.
Petco. They have the little weekend, people
exactly.
come and adopt and all that.
Yeah.
I know a little bit I know we have like a boxer right now, but we've had dogs. I've had dogs all my life.
Yeah.
I've had one cat, but I've had mostly dogs, snakes and fish. I got a snake. There's a snake right behind me. He's a 6-foot gopher snake. I just found a fascination with snakes. I just love them.
Yeah, I got 2 cats now, and we actually have chickens here in Orange County, California. I got
There
five
you
chickens.
go. I want chickens, but Lois won't let me have any chickens. She goes, "You're gonna
Yeah,
have to feed them, and we can't leave." And I go, "What? They could take care of
yeah,
themselves."
yeah. One thing about cats is they're you know, you can leave them for about 3 to 4 days and not have to worry too much about them, but anything else you got to take care of for sure.
But then, okay, so you did all that, and then you became interested in politics, and right
Very
around
late in life, actually. Yeah.
2015. Now, tell me,
Yes.
I see it here on my screen, but I'm going to let you tell me what happened around 2015.
Yeah, 2015. Boy, wasn't that a change in politics?
It really was, really was.
Yeah, leading up to that time, I was always conservative growing up.
Yeah,
And when I turned 18, I voted in every single election. I always made sure to do my civic duty and go and vote. And I would educate myself for the most part on the initiatives that were coming up and a little bit on the candidates, not too much, because I assumed if you're a Republican, you're a Republican, right? Well,
right.
we know now that's not really the case, but at the time,
the parties have changed dramatically. The parties have changed.
Yeah. So I was, so I would go and vote the party line essentially, and then, here in California, when it comes to the national elections, we kind of know that our vote at this stage is a little bit nullified by the turnout and quite frankly the voter fraud because of the mail-out fraud.
Well, yeah, the mail got really bad.
But so our vote doesn't count. So 2015, of course, was when President Trump came down the golden escalator, and at that point, I kind of said to myself, look, the way politics is, it's been this way for my entire life, at least.
Yeah.
At that point.
Yeah.
This is the guy who can make a difference. He can truly make a difference because he is a true outsider. So when Trump came down the golden escalator and announced, I was like, okay, this is a absolute game changer. And I became, really activated politically by listening to him and watching him and seeing how people were actually, his message was resonating because he was talking like a real person. He was answering real questions.
I don't think people were used to that. They weren't used to
he was confronting people the way a normal person would have a conversation with somebody.
A normal conversation.
If it was real or if it was BS, he'd call it out, all that stuff. And so I love that. And so
he doesn't sugarcoat. He doesn't sugarcoat.
No way. And so I really got behind that and was out there, campaigning for him in my own way. We really never had any Trump rallies out here that much, especially
not back in 15, right?
Not back in 15, 16, yeah.
No. Wasn't even a thing.
It was just morally, and if someone had asked a question, I'd pipe up and say this about that kind of thing. But as it came closer to the election and Hillary, obviously Hillary was an absolute no for me, as she was for most. And then just seeing the difference, how the media started to change so much, how they before 2015, everybody loved Trump.
Right.
And then as soon as he came down that escalator, the media and the corporatists hated him. And I was like, why is that? Why do they hate him so much? There's something behind it. And that's kind of what led me into seeing how distrustful the media is, and quite frankly, they're true propagandists. Of course, propaganda is as old as time, just about. There
was a lot of resistance with Trump when he came in. A lot of resistance.
Yes,
how he overcame that, he's just so resilient, right?
And that's the thing, man. That guy, he is the true energizer bunny. Absolute nonstop, and just will not let anything get in his way. And so that was intriguing. And then, seeing him whittle down the Republican nomination all the way from, I think there was 10 or 12 down to just himself was amazing. And when it came to the vote, and leading up, and the newspaper, all the pollsters were telling us that it's an absolute slam dunk for Clinton.
Right.
And as election night started to roll out, I was going, my gosh, you know what? This actually might start to happen. And then when I saw I think it was John Podesta. I can't really remember. Came out on the what was supposed to be the acceptance stage for Hillary and said, "Well, we're all just going home for the night. You guys can go home, and we'll come back in the morning." I was like, "Wow, actually happened." Yeah, that was. I remember that so vividly. That was a truly amazing evening.
Well, this was, this what I call a riot, or was a gathering. In the Washington Examiner, I was looking at an article, and by definition, it was not an insurrection. And the Democrats called it an insurrection because they were trying to defeat Trump, right off the bat. They wanted to do what they could. And they called it an insurrection, but it was never an insurrection. And a lot of the people are confused about the definition of that. An insurrection, you take over the government. You basically take over the government.
Yeah.
And this was more of a party, a riot, a protest that maybe got out of hand. And but it wasn't it was not an insurrection. And they used that word because it favored the Democrats.
Yes, in fact, the word insurrection was for most part unfamiliar to me until later on in the evening of January 6th, when I got back to my hotel room, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. Got back to my hotel room, and they started talking about insurrection. I'm like, insurrection? What the heck?
Did you guys take over the government? I don't know.
It's and if you step back and take a look and say, okay, they found no weapons that day. So out of the close to, there was probably about 1 million people.
Wow, was there that many?
Yeah, it was absolutely massive. It was truly amazing. But no weapons were found. And then even if we managed to get inside the Capitol building and quote take it over, does that mean we took over the government?
No, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't. Exactly. So in any event, they had to have the narrative, and it was the plan. It was the plan what they did. They had a backup plan which dealt with the pipe bombs at the RNC and the DNC. We'll talk about those.
We'll talk about that a little bit later. I do want to show that video that you sent me.
Yeah. So before you kick it off, let me give it a little
preface on that.
So yeah, this is a video that is the amalgamation that I've kind of mashed together from other sources. It's only about 7 minutes long, but as we go through this video, what you'll notice, and I want your viewers to look, into the background of the video and watch what's happening in the background and watch the aggression of the police and how patriots are just basically standing around trying to figure out what's going on as they're continually attacked, and the aggression that they had. They launched over 40 explosive percussion grenades and munitions into the crowd before anything got a little bit crazy. And when we were on the grounds that day, the line between the Patriots and the police line was those little bicycle racks.
I saw that in the video.
Yeah, and so when those are there, people are up against it, and there's a lot of people. So it was shoulder to shoulder in some of the cases. And so if you launch a percussive grenade into that, it's like putting it into a fishbowl. What's going to happen? Everybody's going to push in all directions. Well, right. That started to happen, and so as a result, people were pushing against that bicycle rack, and then that made them act even more. So the aggression progressed, and then so just pay attention to everything that's going on in the background. You can hear some of the things that the police are saying. They're saying like, "Wow, why are we doing this? It's making him more angry. We should stop." And
yeah.
And some police were doing the others, and you can see how disturbing it was when, as from the conservative side, we are back the blue, and all during the summer of love. We were backing the blue while the left was calling for defund the police, right?
Gotcha.
So here we are, and we're being attacked by essentially the police. And so we're kind of going like, why is this happening? We were told by President Trump to go down to the Capitol.
Right.
The Capitol grounds are typically not restricted. And there were people with bullhorns calling us right up to the building. So in our minds, we were absolutely had the right to be there. And as we were there, we were being attacked. So keep that in mind as you're watching. This is about 7 minutes long, and you'll see some video here that is pretty shocking. And if you think about the video that you've seen so far, you've only seen a snippet here and a snippet there of all the video. Now, according to some sources, there's anywhere between 15,000 and 40,000 hours worth of video. If you combine all the body cams, you combine all the cameras, you combine the whole time together. And of that, in the mainstream media, you've probably seen maybe 2 or 3 minutes of that video. And why is that? It is because they had to absolutely super cherry pick points that looked as though we were the aggressors as opposed to them. Okay. All right. So
let's thank the mainstream media for that.
Yes, exactly.
And, I think things are getting a little more honest now. I've got it queued up, and let me know right away if you cannot hear anything. Okay.
Okay.
Here we go.
As I inched closer to the front lines, the tone started changing. I was told by a group of veterans that Capitol Police had already shot and killed an unarmed woman and given an older gentleman a heart attack by shooting flashbang grenades into the peaceful part of the crowd. While Ashli Babbitt's murder has been heavily publicized as there was no way to hide it, few, if any, know about the 3 other protesters that were killed that day. Part of the footage that the feds didn't want released showed how overzealous certain officers were when it came to assaulting and instigating the riot.
1:17 p.m., a second wave of D.C. Metropolitan Police officers show up on the east side of the Capitol. They are the first to bring in explosive ammunition rounds that they will soon distribute to officers on the West Plaza. Officer Tara Tyndall is crouched on the ground, readying CS gas rounds.
We need more fucking munitions! We have 8 blast munitions that we can deploy. Let's go, we gotta get them. God damn it, we need them. Let's go, fucking shoot it! Go! Shoot! Shoot!
On-scene Commander Officer Robert Glover gives the first audible authorization to deploy explosives into the crowd.
Sting-ball deployed! Sting-ball deployed! Hey, put it down, douchebag!
Chucking grenades at us.
Hey, fire! Hey, you fire! Hey, you good? Hey, you listen when I fire! Sting-ball deployed! Sting-ball deployed!
What's your ETA for I Street?
Hey, no one, closer in!
Chucking grenades. Chucking grenades at us.
At 1:32 p.m., an officer laments that chucking grenades into the crowd is just going to make things worse.
It's just gonna make it worse. Hey, stop! Hold fire!
Moments later, the same officer seems to have changed his mind and is actively searching for munitions to discharge in the crowd.
I'm coming out with smoke. That's a burner, by the way. Sting-ball! I need triple chasers.
After not receiving approval to use the triple chaser, Officer Thau appears to be reprimanded by another officer for his use of smoke moments earlier.
I got a triple chaser on hold. Yeah. I know, but this is triple chaser. I know, but this is blitzing. I mean, we got better.
Another captain tells Officer Thau to hold on discharging CS gas into the crowd.
What else you got? Triple chasers? No. More sting balls. And this one. Sting ball!
8900, 23 up here. Here 43 on the north side of I-3. Very large crowd coming down I-3. 51, I need you here, please. Bring him up, bring him up. 150, go more sting balls with the foot.
stick, man? CS, that's it. Keep going.
They're shooting into their own people. We're supposed to be supporting Blue Lives Matter. We represent Blue Lives, and this is what they do to us.
Give me your fucking taser. Get back! Get back! Hold the line! Hey, Rich? Yeah. Put it up in the fucking scaffolding. Alright, record this. I don't have my camera. I got it. Just go. Just fucking shoot. Fuck. Shit. I got you. Stop doing the goddamn pepper spray. All right. You get hit with a lot of pain appliance when you hit innocent people. And not only that, we're taking out one and 10 of them are getting angrier. We're multiplying them by hitting them.
We're gonna beat the fuck out of that guy. The cops are beating the fuck out of that guy.
I lost my flagpole. That was my best weapon.
You did well with that, sir.
My flagpole was...
Put in work.
If they'd never thrown the concussion grenades, if they'd never used the pepper spray, this wouldn't have happened. It was a peaceful protest. I was standing within 15 feet of the line of officers. They started firing at us before anybody did anything to them. We were not rushing them. There was no advance on them. They just started throwing concussion grenades and pepper spray.
The Inspector General called authorities out not only for the complete lack of preparation, but also to point out that a civil disturbance unit was ordered not to use concussion grenades on the crowd that day.
Yeah, so that is just literally 7 minutes of the tens of thousands of hours of video that are available, and you haven't seen any of that or anything close to that. And that was because what the government did is all the video, they scoured the internet to remove a lot of it, but they also classified it so that it couldn't be shared publicly, for the very reason that if people were to really see what happened there, their attitude regarding the insurrection would change. You know, imagine this. Imagine if what you just saw, if I told you that that was the No Kings protest, what do you think would happen if it roles were reversed?
Yeah. It would be horrible.
Yeah.
For, the No Kings protest, they got away with a lot of stuff. And most of the riots in the Democratic side, they get away with just about everything. Nobody's going to jail. They're not talking about.
If you're a Democrat, you get away with stuff. As far as I got a little some compare and contrast numbers when it comes to that, but let's kind of lead into that. So let's go back to the beginning. So that day, a lot of people want to kind of know how that whole day kind of rolled out, and so I flew into town. Let's back up to the middle of December.
Okay.
Actually, let's back. We got time. Let's back up a little more.
Yeah.
So what was January 6th? So people say, okay, well, why were you there in the first place? What was January 6th about? And in short, this is what it was: election fraud that millions of people witnessed. And that was the day, January 6th, which is designated as the day that they count the electoral votes. And those are where the states send in their electoral votes. They're counted and they determine who's going to be the next president. It happens on that day. And so what the idea was is that leading up to that, we had, with the election leading up to January 6th and everything, we saw a lot of things happen. And I'll talk about some of the specifics. But on that day, we were there to basically show Congress, in particular Mike Pence, that he had support to say, hey, today is the day that we count the electoral votes. That is correct. However, there are several states, including swing states, who have now raised objections to the electors that they had originally certified and sent in, saying, hey, they would like a little bit more time and investigation to make sure whether or not these claims are valid or not.
Right.
And so the only thing Mike Pence had to do that day, and the only reason we were there that day, was for Mike Pence to say, hey, we're going to take a timeout today, and we're going to take 10 days, and we're going to do an official investigation, and we're going to see if there's any validity to these claims. That was it. We weren't there to overturn the election.
Yeah.
We weren't there to overthrow the government. All we were there to say is, hey, let's take a timeout here real quick. There's enough people to say there's a problem here. Let's take a look at it. And that's what January 6th was. So how did it get to that point? Well, it runs all the way back to where we started in 2015 and 2016, as soon as President Trump got into office, and we started to learn what had happened during the campaign. We learned about the Russia collusion hoax, how that was started by the campaign, by Hillary Clinton, and paid for, and they spied on President Trump. And then we sat through the Mueller report, which cleared President Trump. But what did they do? They said, well, there's possible things that he could be charged with, so that they could leave that door open. They didn't put.
Oh no, yeah, and those were pretty widely broadcasted news. I think everybody that's watching the real news, may have seen all that. I do want to keep the topic on you, and let's get into when you were actually arrested on August 26, 2021. And tell me a little bit about how did that even happen, and were you at home, or how did that all?
Yeah.
How did that all go down?
So basically, I was arrested 8 months after January 6th. So I was arrested on August 21st.
Wow.
At 6:15 in the morning, when 25 FBI agents slammed 25 with guns drawn, laser pointers out, drones flying to videotape everything, busted down the door, called me out at gunpoint, and I was in my front yard in my boxers and underwear, because that's why I was sleeping, or my boxers t-shirt.
They always catch you off guard, don't they?
That's what I said. But I had on my Proud to Be a Deplorable t-shirt, ironically. And so I'm out in the front yard, and then all of a sudden the big crime scene van pulls up. And then the pop-up tents come out. And then everyone puts on their hats and their booties and their gloves and start walking in and out of the house. And what they're doing at this point is they're putting on a show to let everyone know that if you decide to do what this guy did, this is going to be your house next. And that was a very effective campaign. The FBI SWAT raids that they did on people really suppressed the MAGA movement, and really drove people back into, behind their doors and not want to say anything. And they did that with that campaign, so publicly arresting us. And the interesting thing is, how did it happen? Well, when I left DC and came home, I went to work, the following week, and I mentioned something to one of my clients that I was there, and it was the only person that I really mentioned to that I was there, because of the fallout that had started to occur since I had left.
Right.
And then about a couple weeks later, I got a phone call on my work phone. So at the time, I had a personal phone and a work phone. Now, I took my personal phone to DC, but I left my work phone at home. And all of a sudden, Washington, DC is ringing on that phone. And there is no way, other than the fact that the client that I had told turned me into the FBI to track me down. Because at that time, especially out here in LA, they had all the billboards saying, if you know anyone at January 6th, turn them in. And so that's how I got. And then of course, I'm taller than everyone, so I got caught on video camera, did facial recognition.
Well, quite an aggressive campaign based on, they really wanted to, well, first of all, they didn't want President Trump to get anywhere near the White House.
They had this one.
They did everything they could. And then you guys were the victims. You guys were the victims to show the world, this is what's going to happen to you if you mess around. I mean, but the political prisoners, not just yourself, the term, like what was it? Tina Peterson got 9 years for fraud, and all she was doing was letting somebody update her computer, so that update one of the, you're an IT guy, and we would let somebody update the computer to protect it, to keep it. She was working election fraud. She got 9 years.
Yeah,
four felonies.
Because she took an image of the machine, is what she did. I mean, think of that.
God.
Yeah, and she's still there, and unfortunately, it's a state case, so Trump can't pardon her on it.
Right? Oh yeah, she can't. She's a 69-year-old mother. It's sad.
The sentences that were handed out were crazy. I was sentenced to 54 months. I had a co-defendant who was sentenced to 13 years. Some of the Oath Keepers and some of the Proud Boys were sentenced to anywhere between 15 and 22 years. And they were, some of them weren't even there. The ones that got the most time were actually not even there. Enrique Atario and Stuart Rhodes weren't even there. So
that's insane. Now there was a couple other guys that were they with you, or they just mentioned two other guys?
I had two co-defendants.
Okay.
And so I didn't know them until I met one of them when I was locked up in DC with him after 2 months later, and then the other one I met on a court. It was back then where they started video court. Video court was really big because of COVID times.
Right.
So I saw him, remembering him for the first time when I saw him at a court hearing on video. So. Yeah, you were saying there was no weapons on the protesters, or the whatever you want to call them, rioters or protesters. There was no weapons, and there's an article that says somehow some officer that you got a hold of his pepper spray or something. Tell me that story. So clarify that. Yeah. So basically, what was happening is there was pepper spray flying back and forth. There were bags of pepper spray that were mysteriously left around the place, and those were getting passed around and handed around. So they called. I was charged with assault with a deadly weapon, and that deadly weapon being pepper spray.
Pepper spray.
Yes, and that is the same pepper spray that every officer who goes through the academy for any police force has to get sprayed in the face for.
Yeah. I tell Lois to put it in her purse in case she gets attacked at the grocery store.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's better than a gun, but if she can, a pepper spray will get her out of trouble.
So what they did is they tried to wrap up as many charges and enhancements as they could on us. And then they also grouped us together as co-defendants so they could shove us through the system. Now, basically there was two ways that it could roll out. One, you could make a deal, or two, you could go to trial. And I was offered a plea deal, and I told them basically, shove it. There's no way I'm going to plead guilty to anything I did that day. They offered me in my plea deal, they offered me 62 to 78 months. And I said,
gosh,
forget
no
it.
way. Yeah.
And my lawyer said, well, Jeff, if you go to trial and you're convicted, they're going to give you the high end of that and maybe even more. And I said, if that's what this country has come to, then that's what's going to happen. I'm going to take whatever happens, but I'm not going to plead guilty. And I told my lawyer, I'm going to ride this out, and I'm going to wait for a pardon from Trump. And he said, Jeff, that's not a great plan. And I said, well, that's my plan.
But you're not guilty, and and based on that video, they really instigated that riot. It was a clear vision of when you start throwing bombs into a crowd. I don't care if it's a party or what. People are going to get frustrated and angry.
Well, you saw that thing. Imagine that hitting someone in the head.
Oh my God! They could have killed somebody. They could have killed somebody. Yeah.
They just threw them right in the crowd. Yeah.
They could hit someone in the head with that and explode, and they just killed someone. You think they would care?
No.
They wouldn't even give
did not care.
And it's just ridiculous. And also, I'm looking at what happened to Ashli Babbitt. She was just crawling through a window unarmed.
Right.
And if I was a police security guard or whatever, Capitol Police, I would at least fire one in the air, right? Give a little warning shot. Hey guys, this is getting serious. Throw one in the air, right? They do that in warfare. The shoots one over the bow before they fire.
Yeah, and
I decided to shoot her in the chest.
Yeah, I don't know how much of the video that you've seen that relates to that particular situation right there in the corner by those doors. There were Capitol Police, or I'm sorry, Metropolitan Police, because there were two police there for most of the day, and then later
the city was that city police?
Yeah, there was Metropolitan and then Capitol Police. So
Okay.
Metropolitan were wearing the orange vests, and the white guy, the ones in white were
Okay,
mostly,
gotcha.
The Capitol. But there were Metropolitan Police on the side of the window that Ashley was prior to. And we're just standing there allowing this other guy to bash the window through, and Ashley really was I think getting away from being crowded into that corner. I don't think she was trying to progress further to get in there to do anything. I literally, if you watch it and see, she looks like she's trying to retreat to save herself as she's going through that window. And then, like you say, why did he fire that shot just like that? Why wasn't there a warning shot? Why did those MPD officers, if it was such a threat, why didn't they stop her prior to going through? That's because she wasn't a threat.
She wasn't a threat, and it was clear, and nothing happened to that guy. He got
watched the interview. Actually, he got whisked off and put in protective custody for at least a month or two, and then was finally given the Presidential Medal of Freedom and the Congressional Medal of Honor.
Can you imagine? That's just amazing.
And then we have Roseanne Boylan, who was also another victim. And I was on the side. By the way, I never made it into the building. I was on the outside of the building the entire time.
Well, bringing that up now, you talk about where it says you should have never been in the Lower West Tunnel that day, and you said you regret it. Now, tell me a little bit about the West Tunnel.
That's what my lawyer said.
That's what your lawyer said.
Those are my lawyer's words. Yes.
Gotcha.
Exactly.
Tell me, just clarify that.
Yeah. So someone said, someone said, well, you said you regret it. I said, who said it? And I said, what did I say? And they repeated. I said, no, I didn't say that. That's what my attorney said. My attorney said that.
Okay.
So no, we were there literally just trying to prevent them from.
That's right. It says Brown's attorney argued in a sentencing memorandum ahead of the sentencing that he has no criminal history and is not a political zealot.
Zealot, yes.
They wrote that some allegations are still in dispute, but that Brown admits then that's what he says. He should have never been in the Lower West Tunnel. So tell me, why did he say that?
Because he was trying to look for favor, basically look for favor. Because he knew that when I get up there, I wasn't going to apologize, and so he was just trying to. In his mind, he probably felt he was trying to protect me, and that was one of the things too that was difficult is legal counsel. At that time, it was extremely difficult to find any lawyer who was willing to stand up to defend us.
Right.
And we had two options. We had one to get a DC insider, or you get an outsider. And either way, you're kind of screwed because you have a DC insider who's going to appear before these judges later on down the road. So they aren't going to do you as a client any favors.
Oh my gosh.
And then if you have an attorney from the outside coming in, he's going to come in guns a-blazing, and it's going to be the same situation, only the reverse. The judge is going to say, okay, well, I'm going to show you, kind of thing. So either way, we didn't have, and I knew when I went to trial, I knew that I wasn't going to be acquitted. I don't know if you've heard of the number 13 and a half and what that represents. But in prison, 13 and a half is a number that's well known because it means you have 12 jurors, one judge, and half a chance.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
So if you ever see someone who has a tattoo 13 and a half.
13 and a half. Okay.
Yeah.
Where did you learn that?
Well, when you spend 3 years inside, you learn things.
You were in there. Were you in there the full term, or did you get out early?
I was in there for 36 months.
Okay.
3 months behind bars, and in 11 different facilities, by the way.
I see that. Holy
crap,
so 10. Where are you, like 10 or something?
Yeah. So what happens is part of it's because I was out here in California and trial was in DC, but they move you through the system, and it's called diesel therapy. It's part of the pain is the process kind of thing. The punishment.
Right.
So they move you around, and then when the problem with moving around, especially, and what a lot of people don't realize too, is that there's jail and then there's prison, and there is a difference. Jail is pre-trial pre-trial
holding tank,
or if you have less than a year sentence, you're gonna spend time in jail, and then if you have prison, then because you have further time and it's down the road. But when you're in jail, each jail is different, and when you get bounced around between those. Each time it's a complete disruption to the program you're trying to run, because all your property is basically seized, and then it's put in a bag, and hopefully you see it where you're going, because it does not go on the same vehicle that you go on. It shows up a month or so later.
Yeah, no, I got you.
And
you
then
know, so, real quick, you know, I'm looking at a comment that I got. It says, even the police know that it was a setup. The only person who got killed that day was actually Ashli Babbitt, who was
Roseanne
shot.
Boylan.
And who?
There was another one, Roseanne Boylan. She was beaten, and then
oh my gosh,
she died of a heart attack after she was beaten by a Capitol Police officer.
Oh my gosh! And they don't talk about that.
They don't talk about that one, and they actually blame that she has ADHD and she was on Adderall. So they said that she overdosed on Adderall, but she absolutely did not.
Liars.
So those were, now there were two others that also died, and one of them was Kevin Greason, and the other one was Benjamin Phillips, and they died of cardiac events that were tied to, one of them for sure was a percussion grenade.
Oh my God!
And another one, I'm not exactly sure.
I'm surprised that more protesters didn't die that day.
Exactly. Look, I can't remember who it was, but someone told them that they should have allowed the cops to open fire on us. But yeah,
oh my gosh, can you imagine?
It is crazy. So there were 4 people that died that day, and I want to clear up another really big myth, and that is that police officers died that day. That is an absolute 100% categorical lie.
Yeah, I'm reading it right here about the police officers that all died. You know, tell me what I would read it, but tell me more about it.
So basically, what happened? You know, after we retreated from the Capitol grounds that day, because it was dark and we all went back to our hotel rooms or wherever went home. There was a news article about a Capitol police officer named Brian Sicknick, MPD, sorry, and he. The claims were that he was beaten to death with a fire extinguisher. And you probably heard that story repeated, and it was repeated over and over. So the narrative that the mainstream media went with us on literally night number 1 was we were insurrectionists and we killed police officers, and we even beat one of them to death with a fire extinguisher. That was an absolute lie.
My God.
There's video that shows Brian Sicknick walking around the Capitol grounds after this incident supposedly had occurred, which it didn't occur. And then later, the following day, he died of an aneurysm. And the DC medical examiner ruled it natural causes, and it was not related to what happened on January 6th.
Right.
But the media never covered that, and they continued to say that that he died. Now, they say that we're guilty, according to them, of 5 officers losing their lives. And so, what about the other 4? Well, the preceding 2 or 3 months, 3 other police officers committed suicide. Now, in that field, suicide is more common. You know,
no, I have a friend that committed suicide. He was a police officer. He was a sheriff.
So it's more common in that line of work.
Very common. Very common.
And we don't know any details of what they were so distraught about, because they certainly weren't distraught about what happened on the Capitol that day, because there's video afterwards. It shows them up on the upper deck of the Capitol there, laughing and joking and talking about how much fun they had. So people that say that they were, you know, PTSD was BS. So we don't know how they died or anything. Now, there's one more that they blame on us, and this happened on around April 5th. Okay, so this is literally 4 months after. I don't know if you remember, but there was an Islamic extremist who drove his car up onto the Capitol grounds and ran over a Capitol police officer on April 5th.
I remember that, yeah.
They blamed that on January 6th.
Of course they did.
Those are the 5.
Oh, my God. Now, they also say there was 174 police officers that were, injured? 4 officers who responded to the attack died by suicide. That's what you just talked about. Yeah. Within 7 months, damage caused by attackers exceeding $2.7 million, right? Call to action by so what are they're saying there's $2.7 million in damage, or that's what it cost them to fight you guys?
No. Okay. So the damage to the Capitol, there's someone called the Capitol architect, and he was the one that did the cost estimate of the damage to the Capitol. So, you know, the grounds were trampled, and there were some windows that were broken, granted, and there was some messy areas. But at the end of the day, it was actually 1.2 million. I don't know the number that you're looking at there, but $1.2 million dollars.
Internet.
Here's what they did with that number. They divided it up among 300 of us, so we each had to pay a portion of that. That amount got paid. I had to pay $2,000 personally to the Capitol architect for my portion of that.
Holy smokes.
Okay. Now, turn it around to the Summer of Love riot. That was 2.2 billion with a B, $1 billion worth of damage. And do you know how much of that got paid back by those protesters? Not a dime. Insurance covered it all. So we literally, had, and by the way, the $1.2 million was their number. So it was probably closer to a third of that. Well,
they're gonna embellish. They're gonna embellish.
Exactly.
To make it look better. Yeah.
And the No Kings riot that happened recently up in LA is already at a $30 million. Already cost LA $30 million. Do you think any of the people that did that are going to have to pay that? Not at all.
Oh hell no, no way.
Two-tier justice.
Boy, how karma has come back, huh? Trump won the election, and here we are. Yeah. And we got the military and the National Guard, where things are really have changed. But people like you have really suffered victims during the Biden administration, where everything was upside down, everything was corrupt, everything was lied. We don't even know who was running the country during that time. And now they're coming out with this auto pen thing, and all the pardons that he made are not legal. Because the only person he pardoned and actually signed was his son.
Right, and Hunter was sitting right beside, grabbing his hand, going, "Dad, let me help you."
It's probably Hunter had to move his hand to get the sign.
Yeah, of
but
course.
So it just keeps the hits keep coming with Joe Biden. It's just the worst 4 years for the country, and then not to mention the borders and how quickly Donald Trump closed those borders. Wow, what an amazing job he's done.
Yeah, what we were told the whole time that one, the border is closed, and two, if we wanted, the only way to change it was through Congress, and clearly that wasn't the case. But
that's not going to happen.
I will say one thing about the past 4 years is that as painful as it has been, and as all the corruption that took place, and having to spend all that time behind bars, I think that the election, the way it was stolen, I think it had to be done in order to wake people up.
You're right.
I really do. Because
I said the same thing. We need a catastrophic event to wake people up and to let them see, like when the debate happened. They thought Biden was in his perfect right mind until the debates. Then the whole world realized, oh, well, this guy's out of his mind. He's senile.
Well, no, everybody knew it, but the mainstream had to gaslight everyone. Everybody. Look, during the campaign, we saw Biden trip and fall and have campaign events that literally there was only 10 people out. Everybody saw it. Everybody knew it. Everybody knew he was out of his mind. But the mainstream media kept saying, no, nothing to see here. So when the debate happened, what it did is it exposed the media, because then they had their pants down, and now they're like, oh my gosh, look at this. We had no idea. The White House duped us. So what you're telling me is that the people who literally had access to the White House knew less than me sitting at home on a couch. That's what they're telling us. And so it was the media that got pants that day more than it was Biden.
It's incredible. And, one of the topics I wanted to just touch on anyway, and there's so much controversy about Ray Epps. And I have a note here. Let's talk a little bit about Ray Epps and his involvement, and cut your perspective on Ray, because so many people are confused about what his involvement was. Was he a Fed? Was he not?
Right. So if there was any one person who was caught trying to start an insurrection, it was Ray Epps, because he was literally there the night before at some of the rallies telling people, tomorrow we're going into the Capitol, people. We are going into the Capitol because that's where our problem was.
I have that video queued up.
Okay. Yeah.
Let's see. I have your video, and then I have that video. For some reason, that one got my attention because he was so insistent on getting everybody into the Capitol building. Yes.
And then he was around the Capitol grounds. He was right there at the first breach of the bicycle rack, and then he was seen later on the west side doing the exact same thing. And so what happened to Ray Epps Well, originally he was put on the FBI's most wanted list. He was listed on the FBI website.
Wow. Okay.
And then about a month or so after that, he was mysteriously removed. And there's the only way you get removed from that is if you turn or you're found to be a constant an asset. That's the only way you get removed.
But he was publicly seen on camera telling these telling these whatever protesters, want to call them, telling them tomorrow we're going to go into the Capitol, and they even said, "No, man, we're not going into the Capitol. There's no way. There's no way." Then they looked at him and said, "Fed."
Yeah.
And then the next day he's right there ushering them in and telling everybody it's okay. He was such a player, and he got no time.
So what happened is that he was taken off that list and then basically kind of disappeared into I guess he lived somewhere in Arizona or New Mexico or something like that, disappeared. And it wasn't almost until a year and a half later that finally they decided to charge him with, I think he got a trespassing or parading charge, was given probation, and that was it.
That's incredible. That's incredible because,
So how do you get a sweetheart deal like that? It's because you're an asset.
So how many, I was listening earlier, how many people were charged with assault? And I heard the number 900, but I'm not sure if that's accurate.
Yeah, I think it might be a little less than that. There were I know for sure there were at least 300 who were given hard time. Like myself being one of them.
Yeah. So you're one of the Yeah,
and ultimately President Trump's pardon basically covered about 1,600 people total.
Right.
So that ranges everyone who just got a trespassing charge or something like that. And so the great thing about how President Trump pardoned us, by the way, was that, I'm sitting in jail. A lot of us are sitting in jail, and Trump's campaign promises, hey, I'm going to pardon the J6ers. So as it comes to, after he wins the election, it's like, awesome, cool. Now we got to get to January 20th, and let's see how long it takes until that happens, right? So then we're thinking, okay, well, if he is going to pardon people on January 6th, how is he going to do it? I mean, is my name on that list? And if my name's not on that list, how do I get my name on that list? So it's like this big head
Trump has kept all of his promises, and unlike most presidents or unlike most politicians.
Exactly. So what he did is he wrote the pardon that he'd commutated 13 people, and they were Oath Keepers and Proud Boys. And I know that what those guys did, and it was nothing different than anyone else. So I'm not quite sure why they got commutated, other than the fact that I think it changes the rules when because they're tied to Trump's case as well. So I think that he's allowing it for some sort of future litigation possibilities against, to finish that out. But then the rest of the pardon was anybody who got charged with a crime on the Capitol on January 6th is pardoned. So it was a blanket. So even though my name wasn't on it, I got covered. And so everyone who got charges, who pulled down charges that day, that's how he got pardoned. So it was a great way to do it because no one was left slipping through the cracks on that.
Now what about the 270 something, I think 272 that are still left there? I heard, tell me a little bit about that.
Okay. So when it comes to like right now, there may be one or two, but what happened initially? So Trump wins the election, and then on Inauguration Day, we're like, when's he going to do it? When's he going to do it? He finally did it at about 7 p.m. that night. I'm on California time here, so it was about 4:30 my time.
Right.
And my girlfriend calls me up and says, "Hey, by the way, this time I was at a halfway house. So January 2nd of this year, I went to a halfway house. So I was at a halfway house for 3 weeks when I finally got released. But she calls me up. She says,
you must have been so happy.
Oh, she goes, it's done. I said, well, what are you talking about? She goes, yeah, I just saw him do it. It's a video. I said, well, send me the video so I can see it. And she did, and sure enough, there it was, him signing that pardon. So I went down to the front. I said, hey, I just been pardoned. I need to be released. And like, these guys have never heard of anything like that. And it was Martin Luther King Day, so it was a federal holiday.
Oh my God!
To get something done was like,
almost
near impossible. So basically, what I did is I talked to my girlfriend and said, hey, look, I can walk out the door here because it's just, you can just walk out the door. They're just door monitors there, but they would consider me an escapee.
Sure.
So I called the U.S. Marshals and I said, hey, if I walk out of here, they're going to call you and say I'm an escapee. Are you going to come and come and try and hunt me down? And they said, well, hey, we don't, it kind of is what it is. They weren't telling me they wouldn't. They weren't telling me they would. So I wasn't quite sure. And I thought, you know what? I've been through this whole thing. I'll wait at least one more night because it was a federal holiday. I said, but by noon, I said to myself, my girlfriend, by noon tomorrow, I'm going to be walking out that door. Well, you've
been there that long. Why not wait one more day?
Exactly.
Like jeopardize your sentence, right?
For a few hours. So
right.
at 9:20 that night, they popped they said, you're out of here. And so that was it. 9:30.
But I want people to know that that video was great, by the way. It really shows the behind the scenes with the instigation by the police officers. And if you were to throw bombs or grenades into a backyard party, everyone would become instantly violent.
Yes.
Like, what the fuck is going on? And they would start fighting, right? They would start fighting and protecting themselves. It's like they attacked the rioters. They attacked the protesters.
That was the intent, okay? Because they're look. So if you call back, what was January 6th about? It was about the day to count the electoral votes. Now, during the electoral vote count process, basically what happens is that they go through state by state, and then the states say they either certify or they don't, or they have an objection to the electors. Now, there were 6 states that were going to object to the electors. And when that occurs, the House goes one way and the Senate goes the other, and they talk about that particular state for 2 hours. So that's 2 hours here and 2 hours there. So that's 4 hours per state. And there were 6 states. So therefore, there was going to be 24 hours worth of election fraud that was going to be broadcast worldwide. They couldn't have that. They needed to shut that down.
Right.
So it was shut down by one of two ways. One, either causing a situation on the Capitol grounds where they had to evacuate the Congress people, or the backup plan was the pipe bomb that was at the DNC.
That's insane.
So it had they ran it the way that they needed it to happen. Because what happened? Congress was cleared out. They came back later that evening at 2 a.m. and slammed it right through.
Yeah. Well, they're just like that. They've always done.
Yeah.
They do it behind the American people's back. Mm-hmm. Everything was, done overnight, and you wake up in the morning and something's passed or a new bill's passed.
Yeah. Exactly.
And I'm like, when did that happen?
Mm-hmm.
And the country was upside down during that entire time.
Yes.
And we needed a savior. I hate to say it, but we needed somebody to save this country.
Yep.
And it happened to be Donald Trump. I didn't like Don when he first came in. I saw him as the Celebrity Apprentice guy. Mm-hmm. I saw him as a celebrity, kind of a cocky, arrogant kind of guy. And I got to be honest with you, I didn't like him getting into politics. But now I think most people are on the same page. They're glad he did.
Absolutely. Yeah. I told you when I started following him, but what happened a year ago in Butler, I think was divine intervention for certain.
Wow,
I don't know how that came together the way it did, but it's
incredible
what happened.
It's incredible. And wow, I can't even, I just saw that video again today. Mm-hmm. And he just happened to look to the right and the bullet nicked his ear. Yeah. Holy smokes. Can you imagine? That would have been the end of it right there. Mm-hmm. That would have been the end of it. And everything would have reverted back to Sleepy Joe and who knows who would have been the president.
Yes.
What's her name? I forgot her name already.
Isn't that great? I love it. I'm not going to remind you.
She was on every billboard in Las Vegas. She had so much money in her campaign. I'm like, I'm getting a little tired of seeing her on the billboards driving down the freeway. Yeah, I ain't kidding you.
You want to know how to blow $1.5 billion in 2.5 months? Look at them. That's how they did it, man. Can you imagine?
They did it.
All the advertisers and the poster board makers and everything.
Oh my! I wonder how much money George Soros threw at that. And some of the billionaires.
Yeah.
It's incredible. But is there, anything you want to add? We'll kind of like wrap up. It's about 7:04 and we could go a little longer and let people know. Just let people know. And we kind of talked who you are. You're a good guy. You're a pilot. And there was probably a lot of great people in the J6, crowd, whatever you want to call it. But
all of us are patriots. You know what I mean?
I'm a patriot. And if I was in the middle of that crowd, how would I escape? I mean, I was invited to go down there and show support. And now the cops are throwing bombs at me. What am I going to do? Even if I ran away, they would still come to my house 4 months later and throw me in prison. Because, you know, that grandma or that mom that was there, she was 69, was it? Oh, no, that was the fraud election. But there was people that were there that never went in, never did anything.
I never went in, you know.
You never went in?
Anyway. So I guess if we want to talk about a little bit of takeaway here, I think so what was January 6th about? It was about the vote. And so, you know, I don't know how many of your listeners are in California, but we have something coming up here pretty soon that we're going to be trying to get on the ballot, and that is a voter ID. And so what we're trying to pass, because the legislature won't do it, so we're trying to do it by ballot initiative. And what we're trying to get back to is voter ID, same day voting, and no mail out except for special exceptions. You know, like we used to be able to get absentee ballots in smaller precincts. And so there's an initiative that the people in California, it's called the California Voter ID Initiative. And I'll give you a website real quick that they can go to. It's voteridpetition.org. voteridpetition.org. Now, what that is.
voterpetitionid.org.
No, voteridpetition.org.
I'll post that during the post edit on this.
Okay. And so what that is that's not actually signing the petition. That they're preparing to get organized, because what they have to do is they have to get 1.2 million signatures together in I think 120-day time period. So they're kind of priming the pump here. So if you go to that website and you sign that petition, what you're saying is that when it comes time and you guys start day number 1, mail me one of those petitions, because I'm going to sign it and I'm going to try and get as many other people as I can to help sign it too. So that's basically what you're doing. So it's not the real petition. It's just priming the pump. So when it comes time, now if we get that on the ballot and we can get voter ID back, we might have a chance here in California. But when we have the 100% mail out, it's stolen every time.
I gotcha. Appreciate it. I got one thing I got to do. I have a missing persons report I got to put out, and let me put that on the screen real quick. Hang on a second. Let me know if you can see it. We have a person who's been lost or stolen or something happened to him. And I was told, hold on a second, let me see. Whoa, where do we go? Can you see my screen? Let me see here.
I got it, yep. Mm-hmm.
All right. No, I can't see it. I got to window it. So we have Joseph Aranda, age 32, brown hair. And he's been missing for about 5 or 6 days now. And he was last seen in Victorville in the desert area. There's an article on, if you can read it, I'm going to put it up on my full screen. And I want to put his picture out there. If anybody has seen him or knows him, please call the Victorville Police Department. Hang on, let me show the number real quick. So the Victorville Police Department is 760-241-2911. Let me go full screen on that. If you can read that, I can't see it on my side, but I'm going full screen.
It's in the black. There's a black block down at the bottom part of the screen that has it highlighted pretty good. You can see it pretty good down there.
Okay, good. So Victorville Police, take a snapshot of that screen. I'll put it up later when I do the post edit. But keep an eye out for Joseph Aranda. That's what he looks like. If you've seen him in Victorville, Hesperia, Apple Valley, anywhere in the high desert, as far as Barstow, he is missing at this point. Take a snapshot of his picture. If you know him, please call the Victorville Police Department and report him missing. And I really appreciate it. And I know him. I used to live down there, and I've seen him in the pub down there, so I know of him. Keep an eye out for Joseph Aranda, age 32, brown hair. Okay, and that's it. I just hope he gets safe. We think he might have ran away, or he just wants to disappear. So we're not sure if he's been abducted or not. So keep an eye out. And let's see, what else do we got? So let's continue with your takeaway, and then we'll follow through and wrap it up. Go ahead.
Yeah. So like, I mean, the January 6th was about the vote. And I think the vote is The vote is something that we have here in this country that is literally our most sacred thing that we have to do of all things. And you know, I personally don't have any kids just because it didn't work out for my life path. So when I went there, I'm grateful for the life that I've been able to live, and that's because of the people before me who gave their life so that I had the opportunity to have. And that's why I went to January 6th. It was a kind of a pay it forward kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that's how important our vote is. So, you know, we want to try and return to some form of normalcy, because countries all around the world, how do they sit down? It's by elections. And once they start to get into the elections, and we know that they have for a long time, but now it was on steroids. You know, I think they didn't do enough in 2016, and they overplayed their hand in 2020 is what happened.
Well, when you don't have a voter ID, anybody can vote.
Yes,
and
that's part of the open border, because all those people now, even though they're not citizens, for the census count, it's bodies. So all they do is count bodies, and then the number of bodies determine the number of representatives, and the number of representatives determine the number of electoral votes, and the number of electoral votes determine the president.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I'm a strong believer in all. I'm a patriot. I wanted to have this conversation with you tonight so people could get a little better understanding. If you don't watch the mainstream, if you don't watch the real news, is what I meant. I watched the OANN. I watched Newsmax, America First programs. They don't cover up anything. You know, they show you what's really happening around the world as well. And they even locked up Steve Bannon. And
Peter Navarro.
And Navarro too. And I watch Bannon all the time, and he went graciously into prison, and I think he did 3 months or something.
Yeah, he did about 90 days.
He did 90 days, came out, and he's glad he did it. He did his duty. It's almost like doing your court services, your jury duty.
It was, in DC was really the roughest part of the state for sure, because we were in a town that's 93% Democrat. You're going to get hated on when you're in prison. And the crazy thing about the DC jail is that most of the guards there are African nationals. So we don't even have American citizens who are watching people in our jails. So
you just brought up a point. Someone told me that the conditions weren't that good in the DC jails.
Yeah, they were bad. They were very bad.
I mean, about the food,
we got rotten food all the time.
It
was very unhealthy. You absolutely had to buy commissary in order to supplement to get any sort of protein. The conditions, there was black mold in the cells.
Oh my gosh.
I wasn't allowed to shave or anything or get a haircut for almost 11 months. And I have a photo. I should send it. It'd be a trip after people see me. I will. I'll send you a picture of that.
Well, I'm going to do a post edit on this, so send it to me.
Of what I looked like when I got out of the DC jail and was being transferred to someone else. I literally looked like a terrorist, and that's what they wanted. I had a beard out to here, and my hair was all long, and that's what they wanted us to look like. So a lot of our civil rights were violated. We weren't allowed to have change of venue. When I did my trial, it was during the J6 committee meetings that were televised, and they wouldn't give me a continuance.
Is there any recourse? Is there any recourse for you?
Well, that's what we're all trying to figure out now. So there is, but it's a matter of finding that channel. So
gotcha.
So it's an uphill battle that we're dealing with, but we're taking a look at it.
I'm so sorry you had to go through that. I really feel for you, and you made it. You made it through.
Yeah.
You on the other side. Now we have a new president. Thank God. I bet you're happy about that. And I want to talk.
Another thing too is we haven't won. So don't anybody out there think
we've won.
Think like we're at the bottom of the ninth and we're a run behind, because see, we still got to get another run to even tie the game. And to me, a tie ball game is to leave the 26 elections and still have the House and Senate. So if we don't do that, then we're done for sure. So we're still behind, and we still got to keep pushing forward and doing everything that we can to get strong candidates and to do whatever we can to secure elections. So wherever you are, whatever state you're in, if there's anything that you can get involved with, I would say figure out how to get involved in election integrity matters, whatever that may be, even if it means you're going down being an observer on election day, or you're doing more than that. Whatever it is, it's so important for the future. And
well, you have a lot of strength. You're going out there and you're telling your story. Are all the J6ers doing this? Or are you one of the? Is there a handful?
It ranges from people who never even want to hear the word J6 again to people who are all over. I'm on social media, but I'm not all over social media.
Right.
So I'm doing talks here and there to invited events where people want to hear details like what we're talking about here. So I do that kind of stuff. But I am getting involved in election integrity stuff. I haven't decided public office is where I want to head yet.
There you go.
We'll see where it goes.
Well, you have a lot of energy to do that. It still costs money and your time, and you still have to have a job and make money. So it's got to be very difficult for you to go out and actually do these speaking engagements.
Yes, it is. And then, so, as far as work, I'm still trying to figure that out. Some places, as soon as the background check comes up. So I've been pardoned by President Trump, but there is the internet these days. And so nothing really goes away. And so whether someone doesn't hire me, they can't hire me technically because of it, but who's going to know? You know what I mean?
Who's going to know?
So I'm hoping to find some patriot employer out here perhaps who can help me out. And if anyone's out there in the California area, Orange County specifically, here I am.
Jeffrey is right here, and I'm so glad you did the show, and I'm glad we got your name, got it out there. And I'm a music podcast show. I do a lot of heavy metal bands and rock bands and pop bands and jazz.
I don't know if it's on my shirt, but
there you go, Guns N' Roses.
My Skinner shirt's in the wash. So
and do me a favor, watch the show. I got a great band coming up next week, and I want to announce them real quick. They're called Death by Overkill. And they're actually kind of a swing. There's a chick singer, and they're really good. So I'm going to be, they'll be on Thursday night next week at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And I'm going to be having them on, and I got a whole roster full. Every week I do a music show. This is a one-off for me. I'm glad I got to talk to you. I probably won't be doing many more political type interviews like this. This was a one-off. Holly said, can you do this for me? I said, absolutely. And she was very impressed when she saw you speak. I think it was in Santa Ana or Orange County or somewhere.
Yeah. Terrific. All right. Well, any questions from anybody
well, I'm looking at the chat. I'm looking at the chat right now. We got Holly's on there, by the way. Almost Famous Productions is on there. And I'm looking for, let me see here. Yes, there we are. We got people are just sickened by humanity. They're just so disgusted over this whole thing. And I'm seeing a lot of comments about that. Greg Livesay, there's Greg. I did an interview with Greg Livesay. I'm sorry, I call him Livesay. Greg Livesay, great guitar player, great singer. He's definitely a conservative. I only wish that they really experienced that for real in 1938 Europe. He's talking about. Thanks, Greg. If you're out there and you're still out there, thanks, Greg Livesay. He's out there. And oh my God, there's just a lot of reaction. I'm just looking for a question. If anyone has a question, here he is. Jeffy's still online, and ask him a question. Everyone's just making comments, but no questions.
Got it. Okay. Well, good.
But I want to thank you for doing the show, and
thank you for having me on it and kind of breaking out of your norm to do that. That's important, I think, to do that. And,
I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it, and not that I may open up another channel someday or do something on the broadcasting side. I have a lot of musician friends that are also Ronnie Borchert. He's the lead singer for Freak Show. And that was with Carlos Cavazo from Quiet Riot, is his guitar player. Okay. And I did an interview with him, and he was just like talking about Obama and all this shit. And it was just kind of hilarious. But he's a starch conservative, and we go back and forth on Facebook. And again, we're kind of suppressed. The algorithms kind of knock us down. But lately, I've been pretty vocal lately, and I haven't been shut down by Facebook. But I keep it within reason.
Yeah, exactly. Well, there's going to be some libtards out there who are going to
Yeah,
cry at some point, and then
I know.
things happen.
It's very sad, but I want to thank you for doing the show, first of all. And my pleasure.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. Pleasure.
Thank you very much. And I have a video I play on the way out, just a little bit of music and about the J6 on the way out. So I want to thank you again, and I really appreciate you taking the time to do the show tonight.
Thank you so much.